Welcome to Legal 123s with ByrdAdatto. Legal issues simplified through real client stories and real-world experiences. Creating simplicity in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to another episode of Legal 123s with ByrdAdatto. I'm your host, ByrdAdatto, with my co-host, Michael Byrd.
Brad, it's a new season. We, as we talked about in our opener, get to have a season that is reflective of our maturity.
Excellent.
It's season 13, and we're 13-year-old boys.
This is great.
So buckle up.
Yes.
As a business and healthcare law firm, we meet a lot of interesting people and learn their amazing stories. Our clients commonly come to us with the latest word on the street that they heard from a friend. This season, Brad, we will talk about stories with a common legal urban legend and seek to either prove or disprove the legend. This season's theme is fake or real.
Michael, you're fake.
Brad, you're starting the season a little spicy.
Yeah.
And that's not how it works.
Oh.
I'm also a little worried because our topic today deals with artificial intelligence, and it may cause your inner sci-fi nerd to take over.
I'm so excited. I mean, we could start a whole debate on what is worst, HAL 9000 from 2001: A Space Odyssey, or, of course, Skynet from the Terminator movies. I mean, the list goes on and on, Michael.
I rest your honor. Moving on, Brad.
Oh.
Seriously, the power of artificial intelligence is mind-blowing.
Sure.
I read that the Beatles are releasing a final new song using the power of AI. Apparently, AI is being used to separate John Lennon's vocals from a track that they had found where he was singing with a piano and a guitar background. And the voice will then be kind of used alongside instruments and mixed to create a final record. The rumor on the street is that the song is going to be called Now and Then, but that article said that has not been confirmed.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see in a lot of different industries, including the music industry, how it impacts the sky's the limit for artists and everything else.
You truly cannot get your brain wrapped around it. And, you know, the most popular version of artificial intelligence that our family for sure is talking about, and as I think everyone is, at least from the public's perspective, is ChatGPT. And so I have a question for you, Brad. Have you tried ChatGPT yet?
I have. I've experimented with it, but probably not as deep as others. How about you?
Yeah, I actually have downloaded and paid for a ChatGPT app to where I can try things.
Okay, rich guy.
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know.
Showing off with your ChatGPT in your pocket.
Someone's got to practice law.
Okay.
I mean, just saying. No. And so in preparation for the show, using that app, Brad, I asked ChatGPT to write a short poem about someone named ByrdAdatto, a healthcare attorney in Dallas.
This would be so good.
Here's what ChatGPT spit out in a matter of seconds. Of the lawyers in Dallas town, ByrdAdatto's name stands tall and proud. In healthcare law, he's quite renowned. His expertise, it draws a crowd. With knowledge deep and insights keen, he guides his clients through legal strife. A trusted ally, he's often seen as someone who protects their life. ByrdAdatto, attorney fair, his knowledge and skills unmatched by few. In healthcare law, he's beyond compare and always ready to help anew.
Man, I am super excited about this one. I'm glad to know I'm an attorney that's a fair. I think I'm having some fake robot tears right now. It was so beautiful. Thank you, Skynet overlords, for thinking so highly of me.
Yeah, and I mean, if that doesn't show the flaws of AI, I don't know what else does. But, you know, seriously, because ChatGPT is so new, no one really fully appreciates yet the extent of its capabilities or the extent of the current flaws. And, you know, you and I were talking pre-show, Brad, there's been several different controversies about ChatGPT.
Yeah, you know, as mentioned earlier, many industries are using AI chatbots to assist with jobs that were once done by humans. For example, there are some doctors using computers to make the doctors more human when drafting appeals to insurance companies or summarizing patient notes. And of course, critics worry that if a physician takes some diagnostic shortcuts or presents wrong information to ChatGPT, it could be delivering bad news to patients just because that's what it thinks. What exactly will happen? And this actually happened recently. The National Eating Disorder Association was using an AI-powered chatbot to help with offline questions. And unfortunately, it gave some harmful advice. It told someone with an eating disorder to count calories and lose weight. Now, of course, the National Eating Disorder Association is blaming some humans doing some trickery with the AI, but they had to take it offline.
Well, yeah, that's a pretty mean human trick if that's what happened. And ChatGPT is not very kind, Brad, if they're saying stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard that ChatGPT also several issues relating to the school side of things. And on the personal level, a few kids at my daughter's private school were actually busted using ChatGPT to write history and English papers.
Wow, yeah. It can be very tempting to take shortcuts, but that's just not going to work.
Well, I read an article kind of on the flip side about taking shortcuts, and this connects to a teacher at Texas A&M in Commerce, and this is in Texas, about several seniors being denied their diplomas because the teacher claimed they cheated on their final using ChatGPT.
Yikes. And I'm kind of proud of you, Michael, for not making fun of Texas A&M since you are a UT grad, or for those who don't know, University of Texas.
Don't congratulate me yet. The story is still going, and it gets better.
Uh-oh.
The teacher was the campus rodeo instructor.
Okay.
And apparently did not know how to check whether the students cheated. So the teacher decided to ask ChatGPT whether the students cheated.
Okay.
And so ChatGPT claimed that ChatGPT wrote all the papers.
Did ChatGPT say, in my most humble opinion, I have written all the papers of all mankind?
From what I understand, ChatGPT may, in fact, have a little narcissism problem.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And believes that it writes everything.
Excellent.
The problem is that ChatGPT is not made to detect material composed by AI.
Oh.
And so one of the angry mob, after all these students were failed, decided that they would test this process of the teacher, and they found the teacher's dissertation on pig farming.
Excellent.
And Brad, I'm not making fun of Texas A&M.
No.
I'm only reporting material facts.
Pig farming is very important.
Yes. And so this person ran the pig farming dissertation through ChatGPT, which claimed that it wrote that article too.
Okay. Yes. Another story that impacts our profession. We're talking about obviously pig farming a second ago, but recently national headlines picked up an attorney who'd been practicing for 30 years. So, Michael, compared to you, you've been at about 190 years. So you may have met him a long time ago. But through the use of ChatGPT, he was using it to help bolster a case he was working on. And unfortunately, fortunately for him, the ChatGPT found 6 cases on point that were perfect for his brief.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, not so great. As the attorney did not check ChatGPT to confirm if these cases were accurate.
Yeah, we used to call that back in the olden days, as you like to refer to me as old, as shepherdizing a case.
Yes, right. That's good. That's correct. Well, the federal judge hearing the suit actually did shepherdize the citations, and 6 of these cases were bogus, quote, bogus judicial decisions with bogus quotes and bogus internal citations.
That is what they would call not good, Brad.
Yeah, that was bad. The federal judge was not amused, and the attorney went back to ChatGPT to see what happened, and ChatGPT insisted these were real and available in major legal databases, even though these resources do not exist. It was a bad day for the lawyer, as he's now facing disciplinary sanctions from the court and now been reported to his local bar association.
ChatGPT may be a little narcissistic and stubborn, apparently. Well, that actually is a really good segue, Brad. We've kind of woven our way through these different fun stories and sometimes scary stories to our topic today. Our question to dispel today talks about further about the law and ChatGPT. And so our question is, fake or real, ChatGPT will effectively draft my contracts.
Ooh, all right. Let's get started, Michael.
All right, Brad. The main character in today's story is a prominent healthcare attorney. He is known not only for his skill as a business and healthcare attorney, but also his good looks, his incredible patience in working with his founding law partner, and of course his humility. We will call this person Miguel.
I don't know whether I'm supposed to be offended that you're so blatantly making yourself the main character, or you're impressed by your attempt to bend reality that much.
Brad, I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh.
The other founding partner in our story today is not an important part of the story.
Oh, no.
But we will call him Brett.
Oh, he's not important. Okay. I heard that he's much more handsome, this Miguel guy. And I even heard that AI worships him, has written poetry about his greatness.
Well, moving on to our story, Brad.
Okay.
And Miguel, in today's story, he was curious about ChatGPT.
Okay.
And decided to have ChatGPT write a physician employment agreement. Miguel happened to have an app handy on his phone, and so he inputted an example letter of intent with direction for ChatGPT to create a Texas physician employment agreement consistent with the terms in the letter of intent.
Huh. Well, Michael, how did this turn out for Miguel?
Well, at first glance, it was pretty shocking to see the sophistication of the contract turn out.
Yeah.
You remember, Brad, when LegalZoom first came out on the scenes many years ago, and those agreements were extremely basic boilerplates.
Yeah, not only basic boilerplates. I think originally they all had to be Delaware everything because they only had one state.
Oh my gosh!
And the only thing you could change, Lily, was like name of the parties and a few other minor things.
Yeah, I mean, even with this lack of sophistication back in the day, Miguel and Brett had people in their ears all the time saying that LegalZoom was going to replace lawyers someday.
Yeah, the story that I think Brett once told me was that he had a good friend in Fort Worth. We'll just call Les for the story. And Les was asking Brett, how are lawyers going to survive, including you, with only a few $100? I can get this contract and I can get it, almost immediately. And the more the more Brett may have spoken with this gentleman, and I asked that Brett may have asked the question, what's important to the contract? Is it the name itself? Is that the most important thing? So if you call it a lease or you're calling it an employment agreement, or is it actually customizing it for what you need and making sure that that document matches what your needs are?
Yeah, I mean, we all know today that LegalZoom, has its place, and it's not something that is a threat to mainstream counseling of clients, and not something that most businesses would dare rely on, but as a tool that some sole proprietors and other individuals will use, and it's gotten better over the years, but nevertheless, there was all this uncertainty, and it was kind of something that didn't really materialize.
Okay, well, let's get back to the story. Let's go back to this Miguel character and learn more about what contract was created by ChatGPT.
Okay, Brad, I promise we'll get there.
Okay.
But this experience also reminded Miguel of something else.
That Brett is better than Miguel?
Unfortunately, no, Brad.
Oh.
Even though the names are made up, the story is based on reality. And in reality, and of course with all humility, Brett is indeed not better than Miguel.
All right. Brett and Miguel are losing focus. I
think they're 13-year-olds, Brad. So I should have said that at the beginning.
We were talking about Miguel. So what were you saying about Miguel?
Well, Miguel had deja vu, of course, back with the LegalZoom days when he ran this ChatGPT. But he was also reminded of times over the years that clients had come to him with a contract that they just printed off the internet. They used Google as their lawyer rather than LegalZoom.
That's even worse, people. And again, this goes back to what might be beating a dead horse here, but whatever contract you're looking at that maybe your friend entered into or the internet said was a good contract, again, is this an agreement that is just a piece of paper with a potential name on it? It has really no merit to maybe what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and we see it commonly with our physicians and our dentists out there because they'll have a buddy that had one that they got and they'll forward it on.
Sure.
And so, it's again, you see this kind of created contract out of almost thin air, and it reminds me of those different things that Miguel would have faced over the years. So when Miguel had those experiences, at first glance, the contracts all looked solid. But invariably, they would be missing technical terms. At one point, Miguel had a client, contract for review, and it was one of those examples where the employer had a buddy and send him, that buddy's, the contracts, the practice they used, and send it to the buddy, and then send it on to my client. And before he sent it on to my client, the employer decided, you know what, I like this agreement that my friend used, but I want this to be an independent contractor relationship. And so he changed the title.
That's smart.
And went in, and it was titled Physician Employment Agreement, and decided to change it to Physician Independent Contractor Employment Agreement.
Oh, well, that makes more sense. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if this is part of the episode, but that would be fake. Just because you changed the title of it does not make it. And then we've talked about this on a lot of other shows and many different seasons. It's a form and substance. Mm-hmm. And if the form does not match the substance, no matter what name you utilize, it doesn't make sense. And I know we've talked about this in another show. One of my favorite stories of all time is when someone said, oh, they're asking me to be a medical director. And when you looked at the agreement, it actually was a general partnership. Yeah, it was the term had absolutely nothing to do with the substance. And by the way, that's the most important part, not the actual title of the document.
I think we actually did an episode on that. That's funny.
Did, yeah.
Well, the overarching problem, again, kind of jumping on that, Brad, is that that Miguel would find with these internet contracts is that the legal structure or the nature of the arrangement would vary enough from whatever, was the circumstance behind these contracts that were printed that it would almost always create a technical issue from a compliance perspective. So it would have had to have been like blind luck that all the circumstances were identical so that it would align, that the agreement wouldn't have some sort of, important problem to it.
Right. So let's circle back to the ChatGPT contract. You said that Miguel thought the contract looked good at first glance.
Yes, the first issue that Miguel found was that the contract abruptly stopped about 2/3 of the way through it.
Did you want the whole contract?
No. Oh. No. I mean, I was hoping.
Miguel.
Yeah. But in many ways, though, the beginning of the agreement actually looked better on the surface than like the original contracts that Miguel would see with LegalZoom or with these internet contracts. It made a really powerful first impression. But ultimately, the ChatGPT contract was even more flawed because, of course, it didn't even finish the contract.
Do you think the AI got tired and just stopped working?
No, Brad, it is AI. It's not a human. I don't think they need sleep.
Oh, okay. Well, we all know that some of the things that impressed this main, let's go back and get back to what were the things that actually impressed this main character, who I keep trying to call Michael for some reason. What is that Miguel liked about this ChatGPT contract?
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, Miguel first was just blown away by the speed. It was surreal. Once Miguel hit send on the prompt, the contract immediately started generating and was done in under 20 seconds. Second, the contract did include some specific Texas nuanced language that's required for physician employment agreements, and you would never have seen that in a LegalZoom contract. Going back to back in the day, and it would have been purely random to have seen it in one of those internet contracts.
All right. Well, besides not doing it in 20 seconds, but still not finishing the contract, what other issues did you note?
Yeah. Well, I didn't note anything, Brad.
Miguel.
But Miguel. noted that many of the provisions actually upon closer inspection were pretty boilerplate and basically not of substance. It was, kind of formatted wise. It looked really smart. And then you kind of get in the language and realize it didn't really say anything. Mm-hmm. And though ChatGPT did actually capture the deal points from the letter of intent, it didn't expand on it and build out the legal language in the contract to communicate the deal points. It literally took what was in the letter of intent and placed it into the employment agreement.
Well, I guess that brings us to this myth that we've been circling around in the main story about Miguel and the handsome Brett. Michael, let's go for the question here. Fake or real that ChatGPT will effectively draft my contracts?
Well, at the time of recording, it is clearly fake because I couldn't even finish it.
Yeah.
Brad, am super aware that whatever I say right now could look ridiculous in the future.
But that happens all the time.
True. But even more aware.
Oh, okay.
Because none of us can actually fully grasp the power of artificial intelligence. And I know it will get better than what it is today. But I do think we can draw on the lessons learned from the LegalZoom era and the kind of internet contract scenario that we talked about to draw the conclusion that even when ChatGPT perfects drafting the contracts and finishes them, the answer will still be fake, and that there are actually some potential scary problems that will arise based on just fundamentals of contract law.
Well, all good points right now. I think we can jump into some of the legal implications of this, and let's go to commercial, and on the other side, we'll talk more about this ChatGPT and maybe learn more about that handsome Brett guy.
Many business owners use legal counsel as a last resort rather than as a proactive tool that can further their success. Why? For most, it's the fear of unknown legal costs. ByrdAdatto's Access Plus program makes it possible for you to get the ongoing legal assistance you need for one predictable monthly fee. That gives you unlimited phone and email access to the legal team, so you can receive feedback on legal concerns as they arise. Access Plus, a smarter, simpler way to access legal services. Find out more. Visit ByrdAdatto.com today.
Welcome back to Legal 123s with ByrdAdatto. I'm your host, ByrdAdatto, with my co-host, Michael Byrd. Michael, this season theme is fake or real. And we talked about this Miguel and this mysterious but handsome Brett in today's story, but really focusing more about this ChatGPT. Artificial intelligence really has been on our mind a lot, but it is this spiraling topic, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the story today about Miguel and somewhat Brett is really a journey of a lawyer's experience of how can ChatGPT be helpful in a contract, and let's give ChatGPT the best way to create a good contract. And so Miguel, who does a lot of physician employment agreements, really put the prompts in there to give ChatGPT the best chance to create something. Mm-hmm. And in the process of this contract coming out in under 20 seconds, Miguel was reminded of so many things that have kind of popped over Miguel's long history as an attorney. And so, it reminded Miguel of the LegalZoom era, which we talked about, mm-hmm. and, how Miguel and Brett thought that wondered how that was going to affect the legal world. And then, when Google and the internet created so much more access, there was more sharing of contracts, and we wondered, we as in Miguel and Brett wondered, how that was going to impact the world, and are people just going to take these contracts and use them, and what are the implications going to be? And we talked a little bit about our observations that happened from that, and I think it would be healthy to kind of start there with, we saw that ChatGPT spit out a contract that wasn't complete, had some impressive components and some incomplete. It's clearly not there yet as being able to do something, but to kind of think about what what could happen with ChatGPT?
Yeah, I mean, ChatGPT, and if a lawyer, I guess, is using it right now to do contracts, would be legally deficient, which means increase your malpractice insurance immediately as a lawyer if you're planning to utilize it, because it truly still doesn't understand all the aspects of what's needed in a contract and why is it important. And obviously, it is going out there and pulling different clauses from different areas, unlike, I guess, LegalZoom, which someone somewhere along the way, I guess, with some lawyer eyes looked at it, but it was made to be more bland and boilerplate than anything else. And ChatGPT, in this particular case, it was trying to act as a lawyer, but obviously at this moment, based on everything Miguel has described, it's not trustworthy yet, and it really can't learn yet like a lawyer. And just like the earlier we were bantering back and forth. If it doesn't know, it actually just makes stuff up,
right?
Which is problematic, especially in the legal field. And I'll just say I'll take a step to we're in regulatory law, and regulatory law, form and substance is essential. If you mess that up even one iota, especially on our Stark, which is a bright line rule, every single element must be there. ChatGPT doesn't understand that and skips a few of those and puts something together. And you're like, oh, this is great. It's going to be non-compliant, and you the person utilizing that could be committing both civil and criminal implications, not even realizing that you could put yourself in orange jumpsuits by accident.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you assumed, Brad, for a moment that ChatGPT learned Stark and learned how to draft a contract on point, the person that puts the prompts in to create the contract, the facts and circumstances that the person who puts the prompts in, if they miss it by one little thing, could completely change the legality from a compliance perspective.
Yeah, and the other thing is you think you need this particular contract, so you go to ChatGPT who puts it together as you ask it, not realizing you're actually using the wrong document.
Right.
And maybe it's the most perfect document, but it's not the one you actually need to be compliant with those particular healthcare rules.
And then you get past the technical challenges, which will be when can ChatGPT, create fully a contract, and then how do we trust the person that's putting the inputs in, telling ChatGPT what to do to get it right so that it's compliant and accurate. You get past that, there's still a fundamental flaw with ChatGPT, and actually, for that matter, LegalZoom or these internet issues. Yeah. And so, Brad, when you and I were first years in law school, we took Contracts 101.
Yeah.
And one of the first principles we learned as 1Ls in law school in contracts was this concept of meeting of the minds.
Yeah.
And it's the importance that when two or more people enter into an agreement together, that they connect and are on the same page as to what they've agreed to.
Right.
And that's part of what legally forms a contract. And as we talk about all the time, that's part of what gets alignment of expectations and gets everybody on the same page. And so even a well-drafted ChatGPT contract likely will leave both parties without fully understanding what's there, because it's a shortcut. They don't have to have hard conversations. They don't have to fully vet and work through the various issues. I think some people might go through it and do it, and it could still work. But I think human nature is most people wouldn't do that. They would have the contract and they would say, okay, we've got our contract, check that box and let's move on. I don't know, Brad, do you have any other final thoughts?
I would be very nervous for anyone right now using ChatGPT to draft any type of contract. The entire reason to put together a contract is to customize what do the parties want, as you talk about the meeting of the minds. And yes, ChatGPT, it sounds like, according to this Miguel character, can pull language from several other arrangements out there and even customize it a little bit towards a particular state. However, that means it's just pulling as to what it's finding. There may be state law changes. There may be, again, going back to what we just talked about 2 seconds ago, maybe something that you actually need to have in there, or this is the wrong agreement whatsoever. So I would caution our audience members from jumping in there and using ChatGPT right now for for your legal needs. And maybe it will get better. Maybe one day we'll be working for ChatGPT. But I would say, like a lot of things, use it for making great poems about this Brett guy, because that sounds like he's an amazing individual.
Yeah. That's fake. Were you asking if that was fake or real? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Michael, final thoughts besides Brett's being awesome.
Yes, Brad. I think that obviously now ChatGPT can't even do a lot of things. It can't complete a contract. Yeah. It can't write a dissertation on pig farming yet.
No.
And all the other traps and problems that we've seen along the way. And I would just say this, that I have to acknowledge we don't know what the future holds. I suspect that it will get really good at doing contracts and understanding the laws, and that it's so important for the audience to understand that there's a missing component, which is that connection that needs to be formed between the people that are entering into an agreement together. And shortcuts don't work, and that leads to unmet expectations, which leads to lawsuits.
Absolutely. Well, audience members, that's all the time we have for today. Next Wednesday, we continue our quest to determine if a legal myth is fake or real. We have our law partner, Dr. Jeff Siegel, on to help answer, fake or real, I can respond to negative patient reviews. Thanks again for joining us today. And remember, if you like this episode, please subscribe, make sure to give us a 5-star rating, and share with your friends.
You can also sign up for the ByrdAdatto newsletter by going to our website at ByrdAdatto.com.
ByrdAdatto is providing this podcast as a public service. This podcast is for educational purposes only. This podcast does not constitute legal advice, nor does it establish an attorney-client relationship. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by ByrdAdatto. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. Please consult with an attorney on your legal issues.